Hello, my name's Jackie Watson and I'm delighted to be talking to you today as one of Somerville's alumni. I studied English at Somerville in the late 80s and became a teacher when I left college, and now I'm Vice Principal at Oxford Spires Academy on the Cowley Road. I've worked in state education since I left college pretty much and have a particular focus on sixth form learning and university entrance. These videos are called The Upside as we're looking at positive things coming out of a very difficult time. My students are from a very varied school catchment, including places that a lot of Somervillians will know. Places like the Cowley Road, Iffley Fields, Blackbird Leys, Wood Farm, even if they're just on the front of a bus, as you've been in Oxford. And my students have faced lots of challenges, as we have in school, trying to help them learn remotely. Teachers have developed new IT skills. I wouldn't, for instance, have imagined myself sitting in my home office recording this video merely 3 months ago. And we've tried to keep our classes engaged despite the pressures of life around them. Many of our students don't have their own devices to work on, for instance, and we've had to provide both those and, in some cases, to pay for Wi-Fi access to allow them to learn. And teachers have been ringing home, checking on students, making sure that they haven't been struggling in other ways with members of their family ill or with mental health issues, for instance. And of course, the school buildings haven't in the main been closed. Vulnerable students and those who are children of key workers have throughout been in school since March, and staff have been working both with them and they've been delivering food parcels to more than 120 families, in our case, in our catchment area, until the government's voucher scheme finally began to kick in quite late in the day. And thank heavens, just as a side issue, that these needy families are now going to continue getting that help over the summer holiday. And this is what many people think of as leafy Oxford. Unless we lived out along the Cowley Road when we were students, it's likely that many Somervillians don't realise the levels of deprivation that some of my students experience. Parts of our catchment are equivalent to areas of London that we might more easily see as needy. In fact, one of my Year 12 students, Anna, wrote about this only last week, and I hope you can see the poem that should be on the screen now. Oxford Spires marks itself out as a poetry school. It's been led for over a decade in this area by our writer-in-residence, Kate Clancy. And Kate has continued her poetry workshops on Zoom over recent weeks as students are not in school. And her Twitter account, if you'd like to have a look at that, is alive with the work of bright, inspired young people. One of them, Anna, is in the lower sixth and is currently in the middle of science A-levels. She wrote a poem inspired by a statistic that few people are aware of. Life expectancy in OX4, where our school is found and many of our students live, is 15 years under that in OX1. Her poem, OX4, begins with the lines, "OX4 is the dirt under fingernails. OX4 is curry leaves sleeping on the edge of my plate." And in her evocative imagery lies, for me, one of the upsides of lockdown. My students continue to be creative and to mediate their experience through language, appreciated on social media by thousands of readers. A second project that Year 12 have been involved in for much of this year has been with the Pitt Rivers Museum. And you can see them on the screen there. In the aftermath of recent protests, the Black Lives Matter movement and Roads Must Fall here in Oxford, their work feels central to some of the key issues that we're looking at as a society. Marenka Thompson-Odlum at the museum is working on a project there called Labelling Matters, or Labelling Matters, noun or verb, you choose. And this looks at how objects in museums are mediated for the public. Clearly, when a lot of your museum collection is connected with colonialism, its presence in Oxford is an issue worth discussing. And my Year 12s have worked with Marenka to look at issues for example, of decolonisation and repatriation. One of their focuses has been on something that you'll be familiar with if you've ever visited the Pitt Rivers, the little beautifully handwritten cards that sit beside artifacts, and mediate them in their own inimitable way. Finding that most of these cards were written by a Somervillian anthropologist, Beatrice Blackwood, who helped form the museum that we know today, interested me. But each of the students found something in the collection that interested them, and with the help of Katrina Oliphant from Chrome Media, they recorded really engaging podcasts to explore them and to link them to their own lives and experience. And they're available on the Torch website and on the Pitt Rivers website for you to listen to if you've got a few spare moments. They're an upside to me, and I'm cheered to think that our young people, on whom we rely for our future, should be so perceptive and so nuanced in their understanding of the difficult issues that we have to face as a society. So some of the professional upsides of this Somervillian teacher are those. Personally, despite the global difficulties, the pain and the anger in the news, I've actually enjoyed having more control over my time. Our garden, for example, is blooming, and I'm lucky enough to live near Port Meadow, and I've loved regular walks there, getting to know areas that before March I'd no idea existed. It's OX2, not OX1, but Anna's point resonates. Some of us have space and comfortable lives, and the pandemic has perhaps made us realise how different life can be for others. Somerville was created to include the excluded, and that's something that, in teaching, I can reaffirm every day working with my intelligent, sparky, and creative students. So whether you're learning a language, helping others, homeschooling a child, or just trying to survive during lockdown, thank you very much for listening to this, and look after yourself.